Hey, everybody. We are back for another great episode of Hanshin Tigers Substack News, or whatever you want to call it. I am T Ray Trevor, and with me, all the way from Hawaii, is Sanjay. What's up, brother?
Aloha, brother T Ray. I am indeed in Hawaii. It's hot outside. It's sunny. And we're talking about Hanshin Tigers possibly going all the way. So life can't be better.
Exactly. It's the end of October here, and tomorrow, in about 36, less than 36 hours, we are starting the Japan Series Game 1. Hanshin Tigers heading to Fukuoka for games 1 and 2 against the SoftBank Hawks. So we had said if and when, actually, no, we said when the Tigers beat the Baystars, we would come back, and here we are. And so let's first start by recapping the Climax Series, the final stage of the Climax Series, because we did take down the Bay Stars and neither of us was right. You said they'd get one win. I said they'd get two. They didn't get a single victory off of our boys.
That is so true. And we did go out on that limb and say we're when, not if. So yeah.
Yep. Credit where credit is due, and we are due credit for that. So this is what happened. Game one, the Tigers won 2-0. The first run wasn't scored until the sixth inning against Azuma, when actually Chikamoto reached first base, was bunted over to second, and then stole third, which I think was his first stolen base of third all
And
season.
that was huge. That was huge. That was
Oh,
the momentum changer.
absolutely. Absolutely. Because until then, the Tigers didn't have very many chances. The Baystars were knocking on the door all night. And then all of a sudden, we have this one out runner on third situation. They brought in their infield, which is kind of the typical thing, and Morishita blasted one through one of the holes in the infield, bringing home Chikamoto. And then later in the game, how did we get the second run? I forget. Oh, it was no, it was the same inning, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Onodera.
Yeah.
Onodera with an
Yeah.
RBI.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Uh, hit it the opposite way into shallow right, and somebody scored. So I think it was Sato scored, I believe. Anyhow, 2-0 was the final in that one. Murakami was good, not great. He was constantly being pushed to his limits, and I think he only went 5 innings, but the bullpen came through, put up all the bagels, 2-0 win. Second game, man, Saiki was on the mound. The Tigers gave him a nice 2-0 pad early because we were facing, I think, Takeda, who was the Baystars first round pick last year in the draft. And we put up a two spot on him, which I'd kind of predicted that he would be shaky early in the game because of nerves, because of the Koshien crowd. True to form, that's what happened. 2-0 after 1 inning. And then the Tigers sat back on their laurels, and Saiki allowed the game to be tied. And then Maki hit the go-ahead home run in the top of the fifth, I believe it was, or maybe the fourth. Anyhow, 3-2 for the Bay Stars. The rains come down, delay the game for 45 minutes or so. So I had to take shelter. I was in the right field stands for this game. And I remember messaging Zorni, among others. Zorni, my graphic designer from the H10 days. And he goes, man, I hope the Rains just cancel this game now. And I said, no, man, it's a one-run lead. We got this. Sure enough, like a 45-minute delay means the game is going late into the night. But anyhow, in the eighth inning, bottom of the eighth, Sato ties the game with an RBI single through the right side of the infield. And in extra innings, bottom of the 10th or 11th, I forget,
10th, 11th? Yeah.
one of
The,
them.
yeah.
Anyways, um, I knew it, man. Sasaki coming to the mound, not Roki, but Chihaya for the Bay Stars. And I was like, as soon as they announced his name, I was like, this is our chance. This is our chance. And sure enough,
Yes. You
right?
texted me that. Yeah.
Nakano, did I? I forgot. I
Yeah.
knew I was texting or talking, or I was too excited when I saw that name come up. But Nakano with a hit, I think that was his first hit of the game. And that was like maybe the first or second pitch of his at bat, and then the first or second pitch of Morishita's at bat. He hits the sayonara home run over the left field wall, and Koshien goes nuts. And so for two nights in a row, Morishita is the hero of the game. 5-3 walk-off win. Series is now 3-0, and we bring Takahashi to the mound for game three. This is the first
That
game
is,
I was able to watch from the comforts of my home. I was quite grateful for that. And man, Takahashi was in mowdown mode because seven, well, practically perfect innings, right? The Sato error is the only thing
into
that
the
kept him
eighth,
from
right?
being
Into the
perfecto.
eighth. Yeah.
Yeah, into the eighth, but seven perfect. No base runners except for on Sato's error. And then in the eighth, I think he got the first out, and then they, I think they got it to bases loaded eventually. But then Ishii, I believe it was, came in and shut the door on that. Well, in the meantime, Sato powered us to a 3-run lead on a home run. First inning against K. I believe it was
Mhm.
first inning.
I think so.
And then later in the game, we got one more run. It was an Oyama double off the wall. So 4-0. We finally beat K. And the funny thing is, well, we'd beaten him before, but I mean, we finally scored multiple runs off of him. And so all season, we're worried about Anthony K. He's got our number, he's got our number. And then boom, we get 4 runs off of him in less than 5 innings, knock him out of the game after four, I believe. Um, and win the game 4-0 and sweep the series. We allowed a total of 3 runs, scoring 11 of our own. Truly dominant against the base.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
And I have to be honest with you, I was kind of worried whether we could do this because by all rights, we should have been this dominant. But there's always a nagging thing about the Baystars and like having our number in Koshien. And so I was so happy that we like I don't know, exercise the demons, whatever.
Okay, put it this way. This is the first playoff series ever that we beat the Bay Stars at home. So
Ooh,
we'd won 2 playoff series in Yokohama, both first round series, I believe. I think it was two, but they also beat us in 2017 at
yeah,
Koshien in the first round and 2024,
yep,
right? We beat them
yep.
in 2019 and 2022. So it was always the road team that was winning those series. And then you factor in the Bay Stars when they're hot. I mean, they're not the best team out there, but when they get hot, they are the hardest team to beat, right?
Yep. Agreed.
And they just came off of a great series for them against the Giants. And so there was, yeah, I was a bit worried too. Our team was definitely going to have some rust issues, and it kind of showed in game one. Like we kind of struggled to score those 2 runs that we did, but two was enough on that day. And then from there, the floodgates opened for us. So
Yep. Amen.
yeah. So what do you think went well for Hanshin in this series? I mean, obviously, we got the runs that we needed when we needed them, but what do you boil this final stage down to as far as like what was the difference between Hanshin and Yokohama in this series?
I'm thinking that Yokohama wasn't playing the kind of ball that they normally play, which I'm not that well um, into how they play normally, but it
Hmm.
seemed like they weren't on their game, and we were, and we played good defense, good pitching, good hitting when we needed it. It was again that the thing that QG says all the time. You do the things that you do normally properly and well, and that's how to me we won the games.
It's funny that Okada and QG kind of have the same mindset, right? Like Okada's, I guess Japanese would be like, "もう普通にやれば勝てる," right? If we just do
Right.
things as usual, we'll win. And then there's like a specific phrase, and I'm gonna let you, if you know it in Japanese, like what was Kyuji's? Is
Bonji tete.
yeah, yeah, right. Which is basically like let's focus on getting the simple things right.
Yeah, do the normal things and do it well. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I'm in agreement with you. The other thing is like so last time when we talked about what what would be the key for both of these teams. And we said the starting pitching has to get off to good starts for the Tigers. And I really think like, well, outside of Saiki kind of floundering in game two, Murakami did well enough for those 5 innings. And like we said, that was kind of all we needed because our bullpen is so stellar, right? And also, I had said that, well, and then Takahashi was also outstanding as a starter. And I also said that for the Bay Stars, what they would need to do to win the series is hit home runs because that's what they do well. And yeah, sure. I think Tsutsugo had an RBI double, and I know Maki had the solo home run, but that was their only home run, right?
Yeah.
And I'd said, well, they won't be able to string together hits to score multiple runs. But they did get the 2 runs in the 1 inning. So they did string together hits in that 1 inning, though, out of 27. So I was kind of right. Yeah.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
And then Hanshin actually, I mean, we scored um, the two most important runs of game two on a home run, and also really the three most important runs of game three on a home run as well. So I was kind of wrong in that respect. Like I think that's what went well though, is that our cleanup guys got her done. Morishita the
Yeah.
hero 2 days in a row. Sato, I mean, there was no hero interview after game three, right? Because it was just the QG interview.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, they
but
came through in a big way.
yeah, and then the other big run that we scored was kind of the final nail in the coffin was Oyama's big double off the wall. So like our three cleanup hitters got her done.
Yep.
And I think that's a big difference. But again, we can't say enough about that stealing of third base by Chikamoto in game one.
Yes, that momentum shifter, totally.
Because, like I said, yeah, he'd never done it all year, and nobody expected that he would do it then. And that's one of the things I love about Chikamoto is I think um, he's just got great vision for how to play the game, and he's not predictable, right?
Mm.
Like he
Yeah.
could say, I'm gonna hit the ball through the hole, like between short and third. And that's what he'll do. And he'll say, I'm going to work the count in this game and try to get some walks. And then he'll do that. Or I'm going to attack early. And then he's successful at it. Like he's got these different things. So teams can't say, hey, beware, because that first pitch, he's going to do something with it if you're not careful. Maybe or maybe not.
Hmm.
He might work the count instead. He might choke up on the bat even more and go opposite. Like he's just got different tools in his box that make him
So,
really hard to stop.
so that begs the question: what do we do with him with the free agency thing?
Give him what he wants. Well, I don't, though, like I've been thinking about this. We're kind of sidetracking here, and that's fine. But I know personality wise, he's kind of saying, well, it'd be really interesting to explore other waters. But at the same time, like it takes a lot of guts to leave a team that has won two of the past three championships, especially if we win the Nippon Ichi here. Two Nippon Ichi
Yep.
in 3 years, and you're gonna go see what it's like to play for another team. Like, why?
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Agreed.
So I
And
kind of feel like, especially if we win this series, I don't see a scenario in which he leaves.
knock on wood.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So there you go. Now, as far as this Japan series goes, um, 2025 means we're in an odd numbered year, which means that the Pacific League gets home field advantage. This is the way that NPB works for those of you who are unaware. So last year, the Central League got home field advantage, which means the third place Baystars last year got home field advantage over the first place SoftBank Hawks. And well, I wouldn't say they worked that to their advantage. In a way, they did, but they actually lost games one and two at home, if you remember.
Okay.
And then they won three straight in Fukuoka and then won game six in Yokohama to take the series last year. So this year, though, it's the opposite. Games one and two will be in Fukuoka at the Dome. Games three, four, and five will be at Koshien, and then games six and seven, if necessary. Of course, game five as well is an asterisk if necessary. Anyway, six and seven will also be in Fukuoka. And if I'm not mistaken, it's a 6:30 start in Fukuoka and a 6 o'clock start at Koshien.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand the whole late start thing on all the games, but
Mm.
I gotta stay up later. That's all.
It's, I think, to make sure that any working employee of any company that wants to catch more of the game has a better chance to do so, I guess.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And
So
then
I'll
I
be
don't,
up at 11 or 11:30 p.m.
but okay, so the good news for those in Japan, getting into like how they can view these games, the good news is that I think NHK is actually broadcasting quite a few of the games, which means that we're not going to
Oh,
get the nine
nice.
o'clock cut 9 o'clock cutoff, which we sometimes get from the other stations.
Nice.
Yeah. So in Japan, obviously they'll be on network TV, and if they're on NHK, that's of course a huge bonus. No commercials and no early exit from the game. The other stations will do their usual probably, and they'll have like some famous somebody talking nonsense alongside former baseball players that actually know what they're talking about. But anyhow, um, if you're overseas, what are your options? So I'm going to ask you first because you are overseas and you have a way of watching the game. So what do you do to make sure that you can tune into these games live?
So there are two viable options. One of them is this Hong Kong company that sells a video streaming service that if you want to look for it, it's called Unblock,
Hmm.
and you can buy a modem or it's actually a modem actually. Yeah, it's a modem that you subscribe and you can watch stuff free. Or the can I say this? The H10
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
Tigers game day Facebook group always posts a link to the live feed within minutes of the game starting.
It may or may
So
not be legal,
it may
but
or may not be.
yeah.
Yes. So,
Are
buyer
they still
beware.
posting those links though? Because I thought that they had stopped doing that.
They are.
Okay. Well, I'm no longer there, and not that that matters anyways, but yeah. So those are a couple of ways that you could do it. The other way, I guess, is that like I think Zorni, who's out in Dubai, I think he's got a VPN, and then he's using the Tiver service, which is also a Japanese streaming group or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
they're showing the games as well. I think Tiver, and then there's one more live stream that's in Japan. Unext, maybe. Anyways, those are other options that are out there. With a VPN service, you should be able to tune in that way, and that'll make it good and legal. Well, as much as VPNs are, and you'll be able to watch the games that way. So I know that for people that are stateside, this is a really big ask because it's basically like before the crack of dawn, but the option is there for you to watch these games live. I don't know about watching them on demand. I think maybe if you have the VPN, I think TVer might be able to do on demand.
Or Toratele, I'm thinking.
Tortele, I don't think is doing any of the games because it's
Oh,
Japan.
really? Oh,
Yeah, they could do Climax because that's still a Central League hosted game.
gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure Toratere is out of the mix for this whole thing. So hopefully, anyways, the more of you that are out there watching and cheering, the better. And let's talk now about the actual series. So, as we said, it's the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks up against the Hanshin Tigers. And I looked back in the history books or just back on my writings, and I found that the Hanshin Tigers and this Hawks team have faced each other three times previously in the Japan series. Two of them before I was a Hanshin fan. So, the first one was in 1964 when it was the Nankai Hawks based in Osaka against the Hanshin Tigers. Hanshin had home field advantage, lost the series 3 games to 4, with American Joe Stanka throwing, I believe, back-to-back complete game shutouts in games 6 and 7 to ensure the Hawks the series.
So a little known story, there was a trophy in my high school in Kobe.
Uh-huh.
It's called the Joe Stanka Trophy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in honor of him being sort of the stud pitcher that he was.
Mm-hmm.
And it celebrated high school students who were worthy of the, I don't know, Male Athlete of the Year award or something like that.
That's interesting. That's cool. Huh. So that was way back in the day, of course. And it took another almost 40 years for the next matchup between these two teams to happen in 2003. Now the Nankai Hawks are in Fukuoka and they're known as the Daiei Hawks. And it was our Hanshin Tigers featuring Kanemoto and manager Hoshino up against a superstar team, right? That includes future major leaguers Iguchi and Jojima, I think were on that team, right? The Hawks team.
Yeah.
And again, the Hawks won that one 4 games to 3. That one, um, no, that one actually it was the Hawks that had home field advantage, and in that series, the home team won all the games. And then most recently, and this was actually in my first year as a Tigers fan in 2014, the Tigers finished in second place, but they swept the Giants in the final stage of the Climax series
Yep.
and made it to the Japan series against the Hawks. After sweeping the Giants, we actually romped the Hawks in game one. I think it was like 5-1, something like that. And then after that, the series kind of fell apart on us, and we lost all the next 4 games. So it was a 4-1. All the games were close except for one, though. They had a walk-off home run. They had a bottom of the eighth um, go-ahead single in one of the games, and I forget the other one, but they all came down to like the last inning, basically. So it's closer than the 4-1 sounds.
Yeah.
So that's that. That's how the Japan series history goes. Obviously, all of that gets thrown out the window because I think maybe Yanagita was part of their team then, but not a big figure on the team. And then for us, Umeno was a rookie. Iwazaki was a rookie as well, but he was a starter, and I don't think he started. And Iwasada was also a rookie, and I don't think he started a game either.
So yeah,
So,
they were all parts of the process, but
mm,
not meaningful parts.
right, right. And actually, in some ways, well, obviously, Iwazaki is probably the biggest factor out of the three of them now in 2025. But yeah, they're all kind of getting towards the tail end of their careers. So it's kind of interesting. Anyhow, all time against the Hawks in regular season play. This is all in interleague, of course. The Tigers are 29, 41, and 4.
Oh,
So not great. This is the Hawks are the toughest team for the Tigers to beat in the regular season, and we have not won a season series in interleague against the Hawks since 2012. So you can throw all that out though, because playoff baseball is a different animal. And you can
yeah.
also throw this out, but I'll add it in anyways. This season, the Hawks won the season series 2-1. It was at Koshien. So if you consider that, we've got a 3-game series at Koshien next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It better not go 2-1 Hawks. Anyhow, in that series though, it was Murakami against Moinello in game one, and the Hawks won 2-1. It was 3-0 Tigers in game two with Otake beating Uasawa, and then it was 3-1 for the Hawks in game three. It was Ihara for us, our rookie, and Matsumoto for them. Actually, both of those guys are now relievers for their respective teams. So that's how it went down. But I will say this, the Tigers were probably at their worst at that stage of the season because they had just come off of a 7-game losing streak.
Yep.
Actually, they had just broken out of it a couple of days prior to coming up against the Hawks. So the bats still were not doing their thing. And like, well, the pitching was, if you look at it, I mean, we only gave up 5 runs in those 3 games.
I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Hawks had a better overall record than the Tigers in the regular season, 87, 52, and 4 versus the Tigers 85, 54, and 4. 2-game difference. Obviously, the Tigers had less to play for down the stretch than the Hawks. So I would say that as far as team records go, these teams are pretty equal. And even if you look at a lot of the stats, these teams are pretty equal in a lot of ways. Um, so you look at like some of the strengths of these teams, well, the biggest or one of the big quote unquote strengths of the Tigers is that they led all of NPB in sacrifice bunts. You can laugh all you want, but a lot of those led to runs being
And
scored.
I know you don't like that, but yeah, forgive
Yeah,
me.
I don't, but at the same time, like I'm not going to argue with the fact that the Tigers led the league in runs scored, and some of that came because of the bunt. And could we have scored more without the bunt? We'll never know. So 136 for
Yeah.
us in that category. The SoftBank Hawks actually led the Pacific League in bunts with 95.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So
Okay.
significantly fewer than the Tigers, but nevertheless, you think about the fact that we didn't have the DH all year. And I would wager that probably 30 to 40 of our sack bunts were from our pitcher
That's probably
or
right.
from our number 8 hitter before a pinch hitter coming in.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I would say these teams probably bunt, all things said, about equally as far as frequency. We also have the Tigers leading all of NPB in walks with 441, and the next best team was the Hawks at 436.
That's
So
pretty close.
both
Yeah.
very selective teams in that respect as well, right? And so you definitely have these similarities between the teams. Um,
Not to mention the colors of the unis.
Colors of the uniforms are similar. Both teams had roughly the same number of stolen bases. The Tigers, I think, had 100 and the Hawks had 98, I want to say. Yeah, 100 versus 98. Um, Home runs, the Hawks had 101, the Tigers had 93. That could also be attributed to the ballparks in which they play, right?
Mhm.
So there are quite a few similarities. Both teams have very good starting rotations, and we'll get to that soon. And I think I'm not even going by numbers. Sometimes I like going by numbers, and sometimes I don't. But I think probably we have the superior bullpen, and I'm just saying that off of my hunch. I can't back it up with the figures.
I like our bullpen. I'm with you.
Me too. Me too. Well, let's get into then what we expect maybe the starting pitching matchups to be in this series. Um, so QG has said he's not revealing his starting rotation or his plans to anybody, but I think we can probably guess.
Yes.
That said, you just never know because Psyche did struggle in his start against the Baystars, and he didn't pitch against the Hawks. So I wonder if he's going to still be the game two starter. But this is what I see. I see Murakami going in game one because he was our opening day pitcher. He was
Yeah.
our opening day pitcher for the playoffs. And why not be our opening day pitcher for the Japan series?
Hmm.
Agreed?
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
that would put him pitching games 1 and 6, on a week rest if there is a game 6. On the flip side, Livon Moinello is the Hawks ace pitcher. However, he had to pitch game 6 of their series against the Fighters. Thank you, Shinjo and friends, for stretching that series out to its
Yes.
limit.
Thank you, Fuzio.
And why couldn't you guys have won it? I wish they had. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there right now. The point is that Moinello pitched on Monday, which means that he's probably not going to be good to go on Saturday. I mean, if they wanted to, they could, but I would, if I were them, and this is what I think they're probably going to do, they're going to use him on Sunday. And then if there is a game 7, I mean, they've essentially got like the this the league's Yamamoto, basically, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, in their game
Uh,
7, if it comes down to that. Anyhow, game 1, I think they're gonna have Kohei Arihara, who is their other, I guess, quote unquote ace this year. He had 14 wins. I think he that ties him for the NPB lead in wins. So it looks like it'll be Murakami against Arihara in game 1. I think it'll probably be Saiki against Moinello in game 2. So those will be in Fukuoka with the DH. And
mhm.
then at Koshien, game 3, I would guess would be Takahashi, who threw game 3 of the series against the Baystars, versus Uwasawa, who, hey, aren't we essentially facing the fighters here? I mean, Arihara,
Yeah.
Uwasawa, and we'll get to their hitters. They've got Kondo as well. Anyhow, Uwasawa
Bas-
probably will get game 3. And then game 4, I could see us using Duplantier because he was kind of penciled in as the game 4 starter if our series had needed a fourth game. And he's been looking good in his kind of warm up games or practice games or whatever. So I think he could be the game 4 starter against probably Ozeki for them, who's again like they had 4 pitchers with 12 or more wins. Ozeki went 13-5 on the year, and he didn't look great against the Fighters, but they'll probably give him that fourth game.
No, and I love Duke, so I like to see him there, but it's
Yeah,
also possible that Otake gets the call.
right, right. And actually, like I'm secretly hoping that it will be Dupe in game 5 because I'm going to be in attendance at game 5 if there is a game 5. So I'd rather see him on the mound in person just because I never have. But I've got a site that says it might be Ito, Masashi Ito, against Ryosuke Otsu. Um,
Ooh, okay.
so yeah, I mean, when it comes to the fifth starter for both teams, this is where things get a little bit thin.
Murky.
Um,
Yeah.
and when we get to this point now, it really becomes kind of a question mark. Like, is Ito our best option? How long of a leash do we give him? Who do we have in the bullpen as long relief? And before we hit record, I think I had an interesting suggestion that, assuming the first 4 games go without a hitch and our 4 starters actually pitch reasonably deep, that fifth day could just be a bullpen day, right? Where you got
Hmm.
you got so for example, if Duke goes in game 4, in game 5 you would have Ito, Otake, Ihara, and Nelson. They're all
That's a pretty
capable of going multi
formidable
innings.
formidable option. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and then even I mean, if need be, just depending on how the game plays out and the series plays out, you maybe only use 3 of them, or you use them for less than 2 innings each, and then you just bring in your bullpen to just like throw everything at the Hawks that you can, just depending on again where the series is at this point.
And I have sort of full faith in Kyuji that he will do what's necessary to pull out the W. I mean, I have so much faith in him.
It's interesting as a first year manager, you'd think maybe he would fall victim to some of the typical managerial mistakes or decision mistakes, but I agree with you. I see him as the type that he doesn't look at, well, if he can get over this, if he can get himself out of this jam, he'll have a shot at the win, or if he can, it'll mean extra confidence for him going forward. There's no going forward here. And I think QG knew that even in the first, well, the final stage, I should say, of the playoffs for the Tigers.
Mhm.
Um, he didn't hesitate to pull Murakami after 5 innings. I think Saiki, I don't even remember if he made 5 innings.
I think fourth. I mean, four and change. Yeah.
Well, he gave up the home run to Saiki, and then I think he allowed a hit to Suzuko next, or not Saiki, to Maki. Um, and then I think anyhow, uh, oh, Yamamoto was next anyways. But anyhow, yeah, you're right. I don't think that he has got the long leash for any of his starters, and so I have confidence that whatever happens in game 5 is going to be way better than any plan that I could possibly have. But anyhow, games 6 and 7, if necessary, would probably be a repeat of the starters that we saw in games 1 and 2, assuming that there's no injury and assuming that there's no major breakdowns for any of those pitchers. So that would again be Murakami against Arihara for game 6, and then Saiki against Moinello for game 7. What an epic game that would be if it came down to a game 7.
I would be losing sleep.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That said, I mean, I look back on the 2023 Tigers, and I think this is a relevant point, even though it's a different team. You know, we did a number on Yamamoto in game 1. Everyone's going, Yamamoto is unhittable, and he's going to the majors, and he's 3 time Sawamura winner, and how are we going to score any runs on him? And then we put up an 8 spot against him in game 1. And then in game 2, we only got 1 run. Or not game 2, game 6, his second start. So when it comes to Moinello, I know he is an absolute ace, but I wouldn't put it past these Tigers to put up some runs against him.
Just got to get hot.
Yep. And I think the key for him is to jump on him early because once he gets into a rhythm, he's hard to beat. Like from what the very little I have seen, um, if he gives up runs, it tends to be early. And I'm
Mm.
putting a plural on that. You know, he might give up 1 run in the latter innings of his start, but not multi. Tends to be the way with him. So anyhow, those are the starters. And then as far as the position players or the starting lineups, obviously with the Tigers, we've been through this before, so we can just quickly kind of fly through this. I think all of our listeners know anyways. Chikamoto will be leading off. Nakano will be batting second. Morishita third. Sato fourth. Oyama fifth. And Sakamoto will probably be seventh or eighth, but it's the left field and shortstop slots that are going to be kind of the question marks even moving forward. Any thoughts on who you think might get action depending on if it's a lefty or righty or depending on various things?
So if it's a lefty pitcher, then it won't be Maegawa, but Maegawa has been, in my opinion, um, sort of trying to raise his profile with QG.
Hmm.
Like, dude, play me. I
Hmm.
can do this. So there's that. But between Maegawa and then the righty hitters who play left field or who are not in outfielders but play left field anyway,
Yep.
uh,
Nakagawa or Kumagai or
Nakagawa Kumagai.
yep.
I mean, that's sort of where I'm seeing stuff. And then at shortstop, I know we talked about this last time, and I thought Kumagai was the shortstop du jour with a lefty pitcher.
Hmm.
But I'm kind of like liking Kinami. I'm liking Kinami enough that we want to start Kinami in short and Kumagai in left.
See, I'm still an Obatarian and I believe in Obata.
I love Obata. I'm
Man,
an Obatarian.
he made there was one play that was a game saver in one of those games. I can't remember which game. I can't remember the exact scenario, but that diving catch he made on a ball that should have gotten through the infield.
You did that more than once. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And for myself, like as far as defense goes, I trust Obata more than I trust Kinami. And also as a pinch hitter, I would rather have Kinami there, especially for a possible bases loaded scenario, as opposed to um, Obata as a pinch hitter. Like I think even opposing pitchers, like if they load the bases and it just happens to come around to that scenario, and it could happen just even once in the series is enough. Once in that series, a bases loaded Kinami pinch hit scenario, that's
Yeah.
enough, man. That could change the series.
I would not want to be that pitcher.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I agree. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. So on that note, we haven't talked about what do we do in games 1, 2, and possibly 6, 7 for the DH. Like, do you see anybody who is kind of fit for that role that you would want to give 4 at bats to um, in against any of those pitchers. So Arihara's a righty, Moinello is a lefty, and so we would be seeing them possibly twice each.
So I've seen write-ups about Toyota.
Yep.
I'm not sure that that's the answer, but it seems like he's one of the potentials for DH
Mhm.
as a righty hitter.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then as a lefty hitter, I mean, we just spoke about Maegawa being a possibility there. So, and then recently, recency bias notwithstanding, Onodera was not um, horrible.
Hmm.
So we could possibly see him too. I don't
Yeah.
know. The DH is like a tough position to play. You
Yeah.
got to have the right mindset. You got to be able to. I don't know how you say this, but it's like not anyone can be a DH.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think that's where, up until this point, and really moving forward through the end of 2027, I think that's going to be the issue with Central League teams in the Japan Series and in Interleague and so on, until we get used to having somebody that is the DH, or even just the mindset of, hey, you could be the DH on any given day, which is something that's going to take a long time to get used to. Which is why I say, even in 2027, I don't think CL teams are going to magically have outstanding hitters in the DH slot. It's going to take a couple of years for that to happen. But anyhow, I think in this series, like looking at the Tigers roster, I don't see anyone that I would say, oh, that guy's going to hit the cover off the ball. Boy, I'm glad we don't have to put him in the field. Like, we don't, no such player exists on our team, right? Well, I'd use him as a pinch hitter, but not as a starter. Like, I don't really see anybody that fits that role. I mean, you might have like a Maagawa whose defense is not great, but he's also right now not an awesome hitter either, right? So there's nobody that I would say, oh, that's instant offense. Yes, they are better than the pitcher, 100%.
Okay, that's
But
a low bar to clear.
yeah,
Um, I do want to mention Hernandez
yeah,
as a possibility
yeah.
on the righty side.
I'm in agreement with that. I don't, I mean, he's kind of the X factor because he hasn't really been clutch this year. I mean, he hasn't had a ton of time, but he also hasn't really shown himself to be a scary uh, player for opposing pitchers to face.
Yeah, I think he had one or two shining moments.
Yeah. Um, but go back 2 years again. I was not high on Sheldon Noisy, but boy, am I glad he was in the lineup
Yeah,
in game
exactly.
7, especially, right? So all it takes for Hernandez to earn his 2026 contract is one big hit in the series.
Yep,
Yeah.
agree.
So maybe he's the guy. Okay, let's look at the Hawks lineup because they are a team that we don't often see, and maybe our listeners don't often see either. I don't know, but I'm looking at who they had in their lineup in Game 6 against the Fighters, and I'm using that as my basis. But I also will say that Kensuke Kondo, speaking of former fighters, right? He
Mhm.
is apparently ready for the Japan series.
I see. Okay.
He's a Samurai Japan player, so he's an outstanding hitter. He's also a pretty good fielder. But I get the feeling they'll probably put him in as DH in games 1 and 2. And
Mm.
then if he's healthy enough to play the field at Koshien, he will. But so I don't know what they're doing for batting order. I'll list who they've got in game 6 as their starting nine. And let's keep in mind that they'll do some shuffling in order to make room for Kondo. Because I guarantee you don't leave a guy like that on the bench. If he says he's ready to go, you put him in. So they had batting leadoff Shuto, who's like their equivalent of
Oh,
Tsujimoto. Right.
yes.
Plays center field, very fast, not a ton of power, but very fast again. They had batting second Kawase at shortstop. Batting third, playing right field was Yanagi Machi. Batting fourth and in left field was Yanagita. Batting fifth and playing first base was Kurihara. Batting sixth at DH was Yamakawa. Batting seventh at third base was Nomura. Batting eighth at catcher was Umino. And batting ninth at second base was Makihara. So pretty good lineup there. I mean, like, um, you just look at like past or present Samurai Japan. You've got Shuto, you've got Yanagita, you've got Kurihara, you've got Yamakawa.
Yeah,
And I think maybe even Makihara might have been like a bench guy on a Samurai Japan, but that's a pretty formidable lineup. And you add in Kondo, right, who didn't even
yeah,
play in that Fighters series.
yeah.
So I would assume then that DH would be Kondo, first base would be Yamakawa, and then Kurihara would move to maybe third base, and Nomura would be on the bench. That would be my guess as to what they'd do.
That's a formidable lineup.
Yeah, it certainly is. But our pitchers can handle it, and our catcher Sakamoto, I think, is going to be the key to this series, and his ability to call the game for our pitchers to limit this Hawks lineup. That said, though, like the Hawks did not score a ton of runs against the Fighters in this series overall. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but it seems like every game they won was close and low scoring, and the 3 games they lost, they got blown out.
I'm
So,
liking that.
yeah. Well, actually, let me pull this up right now. So they won the last game 2-1. It was okay. So for game one, they won 2-1. Game two, they won 3-0. Game three, they lost 6-0. Game four, they lost 9-3. Game five, they lost 7-1. And then game six, they won 2-1. And so the most runs that they scored was three in any game. You look at those bats. And, with all due respect to the Fighters, I mean, they've got some really good pitchers too, but that good? I don't know. So maybe, I don't know, if, if our pitchers can keep that lineup in check, I think we've got a really good chance of winning this series.
Here, here.
Yeah. So, I don't know that we need to necessarily talk bullpen. I guess all we could do is talk about like who's their closer, because that's kind of the main thing, right? Like who do they have as their um and I think is his name Sugiyama? Is that his name? He's been really good this year. Sugiyama Kazuki has been outstanding. Um and so he again, I don't have numbers. I don't even know what kind of pitches he throws, but I just know that in the regular season, he had 65 mounds and a 1.82 ERA with a strikeout rate of almost 12 per 9 innings.
That's pretty nasty.
Yeah, he's got the stuff, obviously. He's thrown, he had at least one strikeout in each of his last 5 mounds, and he's been really, really good. He did pitch in both wins that the Hawks had against the Tigers in the regular season, and it looks like he struck out four, gave up just 2 hits and no runs. So we got our work cut out for us as if the Hawks have the lead late.
So we don't want to get to that point.
Right. So that being said, then what do you think is the key to this series for the Tigers in order to beat the Hawks? I don't care what the key is for the Hawks to beat the Tigers. I'm not even going that way with today's talk. Like we talked about the Baystars key, but what is the key for the Tigers in your opinion?
So it's the same as we discussed before. Don't make any stupid mistakes on defense.
Hmm.
Just make the plays that you were supposed to make. You don't need to be a hero. And the bats, I just hope that between sort of a number one draft picks,
Mm.
they come through.
Hmm.
And that's all we need. We don't need 12 runs in a game. We
Right.
just need them to like each guy, Morishita, Oyama, and Sato, will each have a home run in one of their games, and we'll be fine.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely agree with you on that. I really think that like our lineup is not the type that can get shut out very easily. Like we just have that 1 through 5 is just too lethal. At some point during the game, in one of their 4 times around, or whatever it is, four, well, if it's five, then it's all the more true. But um, at least one of those times they'll click and they'll score a run or two or more, right? And then you get your 6, 7, 8, 9, and just depending on the scenario, like they've come through in different ways as well. Like you look at Onodera, he came through in the one game. Um, and so I really think though that the key is, like you said, just play Tigers baseball. And I have yet to see them make any really stupid plays on defense. I can't think of a game in which they committed 2 costly errors in the same game. Errors will happen. It's
Yes,
inevitable.
of course.
I
Yeah.
think 2 years ago, if you remember, like with the Tigers and Buffaloes, there were a lot of errors in that series. But our team was also, I think, a lot more error prone then. And also everything was new to them. Like Japan's series was a first time affair for everybody.
Yeah.
And now we've been there, done that, and been champions. Whereas the Hawks have been there and done that last year, and they came out losers. And I think that might be one of the factors as well, is just to stay level headed, like you said. Like the Hawks might be coming in with that kind of chip on their shoulder, or like, hey, we've got unfinished business because last year we somehow let the Baystars come back on us and win, and we've got to do it this year. But I still just think like manager wise, managerially, um, I don't know Kokobo that well, but I feel like Kyuji's still got the leg up on him.
I agree.
There's just something about him that he knows how to win games. He's just got such a great head for the game.
He
And
he to me, he's thinking at a different level.
yeah,
He's
and I think
watching the
he's
game and that you and I are watching, and he's seeing different things.
I think he's a chess master. And beyond
Yeah.
that, um he's also the psychiatrist, psychologist, all those ologists, and iotrists. I think he's
Yeah.
just got it all. Like he can tell what's going on, and he can read the field and how to make the best decisions in the moment to get the best out of his players. And I think honestly that might be the key to the series.
Yeah.
Both of these teams, if they both play their best baseball, it's going to be a hard series to win, and it might come down to managerial decisions. And the other thing is that um, I hate to kind of say this in some ways because I don't like when people use this argument when they're anti-DH, but a manager that has played without the DH or has managed without the DH has an advantage over the manager that isn't used to that. When it comes to when to pull the pitcher, when to use a pinch hitter, maybe to make the swaps instead of just plugging the pinch hitter into the pitcher's spot, like all that stuff. Kyuji's done it for the whole season. Kokubo hasn't done it.
Yeah.
So those types of decisions are going to come naturally to Kyuji, and they may not for Kokubo. And I don't know if like you and I, as regular viewers of baseball, will be able to pick a moment where we're like, Kokubo made this mistake. Like it may not be obvious to us, but it might just be that subtle mistake that Kokubo makes that Kyuji doesn't, that might decide this series.
I'm with you on them. QG is greater than Kokobo.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we're in agreement on something finally. Just kidding. We're in agreement on almost everything, but that's okay. We're both Tigers fans. So um, let's land this plane. And obviously, I'm closing this call if you pick the Hawks to beat the Tigers, and I don't think you will, and neither will I. So what's going to happen? Tigers in?
Five.
Yes. We agree on something at last, he says for the second time this minute. Yeah, actually, I'm going to agree with that. And part of that is my heart saying, I want to be at the last game. That's the biggest reason I say Tigers in five. But also, I don't know if it does go back to Fukuoka. I know that we won game 7 at Kyocera Dome in a Pacific League park with the DH, but I just kind of, there's a little bit of fear in me that if it does go back to Fukuoka, you just don't know what's going to happen. Like,
We don't want to go there.
again,
We don't
oh
want to go there
three,
if we can.
0-3 means nothing in 2025, but in 0-3, we were up 3 games to 2 going back to Fukuoka and lost the series. So all that said, like, I just want us to wrap it up at Koshien. And I think we can. And I think because we don't have the DH in those 3 games at Koshien, I kind of believe that we can win all 3 of those. So take 1 out of 2 in Fukuoka and come home and sweep them at Koshien. Tigers win. Okay. We
Bring it
got
on.
this. We got this. So everybody else, um, if you are accessing this on Substack or on YouTube or wherever, write it in your comments. Write it in our comments, I should say. Who you got in this series and in how many games. And talk to us. We would love to hear more from you. We appreciate all the listens that we get and all the feedback that we get and so on. So thank you for listening to this episode of Hanshin Tigers Substack News, whatever we want to call it. It's the Grand Japan Series. Great preview. Tune in because tomorrow all the fun begins.
Bring it on.
Let's go Tigers.